In episode 482, Ryan and Jose chat with Jason Liles about his role in Hellraiser 2022 and his other iconic roles, including George in Rampage, Ryuk in Death Note, King Ghidorah in Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is the Clive Barker Podcast, where longtime fans Ryan and Jose interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. This episode is in podcast audio and YouTube video. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over his Pinterest page and commissioning a painting of your own. For commissions, Don requires no money down, and there will be no obligation on your part. You can also head over to the Etsy shop to buy one of his books, like A Chimney Sweep's Tale, Celebrate Imagination, or The Imaginaries. Follow the link in the show notes or click on the side banner and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Check out his paintings The Wink and The Innocent on Facebook. And just today on Don Bertram's Facebook page, Hummer 3. So go check that out and see if it might be something you'd want to put in your home. Also check out his newest video on YouTube detailing the best cutlery gallery prints or art photos. We recently made this video public from our Patreon exclusive playlist. Let's welcome our other sponsor, Ed Martinez, and his YouTube channel. Lots of great special effects videos and Barker-related content. What's the latest from Ed? Ed and Nina just recorded Ed's personal footage from the 1992 Fangoria Weekend of Horrors convention. So that's this is a QA by Clive Barker and exclusive footage by Ed. So something probably a lot of people have never seen. So check it out. And also, with this being a Jason Liles episode, please keep in mind at Ed's YouTube channel, he's got all kinds of interviews with people related to the Hellraiser 2022 movie, like Russell FX and the sculptor for the Chatterer. So those are also pretty good reasons to subscribe to his channel. Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. A shout out to the circle of magicians who make this possible: David Anderson, Erik Van T Holt, Daniel Elven, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, our newest member Markus, and of course Don Bertram and Ed Martinez for sponsoring us. Our supporters now get to see a new article by Jose Leitao, Hellraiser Virtual Dreams by Color Dreams. It's about a Hellraiser video game that never happened. Also exclusive for our Patreon members, a new video from Ed Martinez showing the 1993 book signing by Clive Barker at the Razorline booth at the San Diego Comic-Con. Well, welcome. This is episode 482.
Sure. Hey, guys. Today, we're very happy to have a special guest, actor Jason Liles, who played Ryuk in Death Note, George in Rampage, and Chatterer in the 2022 Hellraiser.
Yay.
Hello. Thank you so much
how's it
for
going?
having me. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you, Jason. I trust you're having a great day over there in LA, and now that the fires are also contained, that things are under control over there, and you're having a good day.
Definitely having a good day, and yeah, things are definitely praying for everyone who was affected by those fires, because a lot of people were. We've been safe in Glendale. It was smoky during that week in the air for sure. Evacuation zones got really close, actually, within like 2 miles from us. But they didn't get any closer, and just grateful and praying for everybody that's affected, and that we got rain recently, and we got water coming down from the north part of the state, supposedly. I don't know how all that's working, but hopefully we're good. we're good.
That's good. That's good. That's wonderful. So this is exciting. I mean, I'm a big fan of the new Hellraiser. Of
Me
course,
too. Yeah.
We were very excited when we heard that that movie was in the works, and of course, before that, I didn't know it was you, but we had seen stuff like Death Note and Rampage, where you played George. So it's great to have you here, and hopefully we'll be able to get more people from the Hellraiser movies to come up. And if you enjoy this episode today, and if you enjoy the experience, maybe we can get more people from the cast to join us and talk a little bit about the experience with the Hulu Hellraiser.
Sure. Yeah, they're all great people. And I was stoked when I found out it was happening as well. I found out it was happening by getting an email that I had an audition for it. But it was called something else. Oh man, I think it was called The Box.
The Box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And the chatterer was called the Clackerer, like the clacker.
So this was to keep the news from getting out about what the project was?
Yeah, rather than just saying Hellraiser, just The Box. And then I was trying to figure out who the makeup artists were on it. And so I messaged a friend of mine at a big shop here in LA and was like, do you know who's working on this? And he's like, oh man, yeah, we had to pass on that. You know what that is, right? And I was like, The Box. I don't know what that is. He said, no, dude, that's the new Hellraiser. I was like, oh, that's cool. Wow. All right. Yeah.
So Josh and Sierra effect from they were the effects artists that were working on that with Keith Thompson, who created the design for the group of Cenobites. Mikey Rotella sculpted the chatter. I've seen some of the designs about that. And eventually when they were able to cast you, the mold and all that, that's when they really fine-tuned the design for the chatterer. I've seen your audition tape. It was really cool.
Really?
Yeah, I know that you posted that on Instagram, so I got a chance to check that out this morning. Really cool stuff.
Thank you. I wish I had more of my auditions from pre-COVID when they weren't self-taped like that, because of course then casting just had it. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun to post that so someone could see, what do you actually do for an audition for something?
We'll have to put that in I missed that. We'll have to put that in the show notes.
Yeah, I just found it shortly before. I was going through your Instagram and I found that there. So what first inspired you to pursue acting, especially in the realm of creature performance?
That's a great question. I just, I guess someone else could have grown up with me and watched all the same movies and not wanted to go after it. And so I don't really know what it was in me that said, yeah, but I have to go after it. I have to do it. But I was born in 1987. So growing up in the 90s with VHS tapes, I remember we had all the Star Wars films. We had all the Indiana Jones films and so many great, and all the 80s movies, all the Spielberg movies, and just got me dreaming like, man. And I was in Memphis, Tennessee, so I never met anyone who was in a movie. I remember in high school, a friend of mine, I found out he auditioned for the part of the boy in the Coen Brothers movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like, you the two men from the bank, and with the gun. And I was like, you auditioned? Like, I thought it was some magical place. There's no way I'd ever be able to get in movies. So my brother and I made movies he had a handy cam with a tiny little, cassette tape in there, whatever that does, is like this big. He'd edit those together and we just come up and make stuff, but I never thought I would actually get to be in anything. I never thought, I also had anxiety and panic attacks when I was a kid. And it's like the idea like, oh, I can totally move away from home, which is the most uncomfortable thing I could possibly imagine at the time. And then I could figure out how to be in front of hundreds of people in front of a camera and perform. Yeah, but I don't think that ever happened. So I ended up, Lord of the Rings got to try and make it short. Lord of the Rings got me dreaming, and all the behind the scenes was like, wow, that'd be incredible. Andy Serkis's Gollum was amazing. All the characters in that. That was in high school. And then The Dark Knight came out, and I saw that 6 times in the first 2 weeks that it came out, which I'd never seen a movie that many times. It was just so good. It was just freaking amazing. And that just got me looking at things. And then I started taking classes in college, and then director of theater ended up, this is my wife, Allie, by the way, everybody who just tuned in. She's getting ready to go somewhere. But I yeah, I started studying in college. I didn't even make my major theater because I just thought, well, there's no point. Like, I'm not actually going to be able to like go do, it's just a dream. I'm not going to be able to go do anything. But the director of theater was like, well, why are you taking these acting classes, but you're not a theater major? Like, go make your major theater and go audition for the play tonight. And so he believed in me a bit. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay, that sounds cool. And then I ended up looking at schools in New York. And my dad was like, you're not moving to New York. And then we visited New York, and he's like, oh, wow, I think you need to be here. Because certain conservatories showed interest. They're like, your son's 6'9". If a little person walked in here, I would throw financial aid at them because I don't have anyone like them. And they're going to book something that needs a little person to play that character. And just like with your son, 6'9", he's going to book something in the future where they need someone tall. And I want to put him on our billboard and say he went here so we can make more money. And my dad loved that bluntness. And he's like, that makes sense. You need to be here. And so in 2009, I moved to New York. Still was told you're too tall. Laughed at by some friends in college. You're going to move to New York and be an actor? I remember exactly who said that, exactly where we were in the dorms. And I was like, I'm going to show you. You don't know. Let that fire you up if anyone's listening and someone doesn't believe in you. Like, it's amazing when I went to New York and I started going to Broadway plays and I waited outside the stage door on the sidewalk for like Jeffrey Rush and James Gandolfini and Susan Sarandon and Jude Law and Hugh Jackman and all these people to come out and ask them questions. They all thought I could do it. And they weren't benefiting from it. They weren't like, I think you can do it. Give me $5. They weren't making anything from that. They were just like, dude, of course you can do it. So these people who have never succeeded didn't believe in me, but these people who are at the top, they're like, dude, you can totally do it. You're not too tall. Who said you're too tall? We need more tall people. There aren't enough tall actors. And so I was like, these people are right. So who you listen to is so huge. And then I studied and I got into Men in Black 3. They needed tall people for Aliens. I got to work. 6-time Oscar-winning makeup artist who won his 7th while we were filming, Rick Baker. It was his last film he was actually on set for. He retired a few years later. He brought me back for Alien after Alien after Alien throughout the entire production. That was incredible.
Yeah.
That led to all these student films and short films. We need a werewolf. We need a monster. Oh, there's this one where Doug Jones is going to be the human. Here's his IMDb link if you don't know who that is. Of course I knew who he was. He was my hero.
Abe Sapien.
Oh my gosh, and Pan's Labyrinth, and like, yeah, we need someone taller than him to play the monster who he has a fight to the death. You're the only two in the short. It's a short film. Do you want to do it? Yes. And all this led to that. And then Doug ended up saying, when I was talking to him, I met a mentor of mine, David Patrick Green, who was a mentor for several years. Pivotal. Certain people just pivotal in the journey. And he said, dude, you need to look into like LA and conventions and stuff. And I called Doug. And he said, you should come out to this one called Monsterpalooza in LA. I'm going to be there in a week. This was in 2014. And a friend said, you can stay on my couch if you come out next weekend. And I looked at tickets and they were, this is back when they were like less than $300 to round trip one way from New York to LA and back. And I went out and I met all these people who said, dude, there's nobody like you, 6'9", and Doug knows you and all this, and you were in Men in Black. Get out here so we can get you in stuff. And I was like, okay, Oscar winners and Emmy Award winners who do this stuff. They're like, half the time it's our choice who we're going to put in the Predator suit or whatever. There's not even an audition. Just get here. We know you. We'll bring you in. Okay. And a year later I moved. And, it led so many auditions and stories that were so close to no cigar in New York, in LA, and then Death Note clicked, and I could tell a whole hour and a half long story just on how that happened. And then that led to Rampage, and that led to Godzilla King of the Monsters, and that led to Hellraiser and so many other films in between, and all these connections all over the world now who I've become friends with. They're all nerds. They all just want to make stuff. Even if they've won Oscars, they're just nerds who want to make stuff, and I'm a nerd too. And so it's just like, it's so crazy to be connected to people who, they're the ones that got me dreaming when I was a kid and a teenager and the stuff that came out in. And now I've worked with so many of them, or we haven't yet, but we're trying. And we're friends who want to. So it's such a long journey, from the moment I made the decision to move to start studying in 2008, the fall of 2008. I mean, now we're looking at, that's 17 years later now.
Right.
But it's just little steps in the right direction of, I don't care what it takes. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get moving. A torpedo doesn't think about everything and then get moving. It just gets moving. And it's just, I'm going to find my way to the target. And I got around enough people who said, go that way, go this way, talk to that person, go to this website, go to that talk, come to this thing. And it all led to, here we are chatting about movies I've been in. It's like, my wife and I are just big nerds who just like, I sometimes forget that I even played these things. It's like, oh yeah, that happened like 8 years ago or whatever. And so it's, so that's a whole story. Those are the big bullet points of how we got to here.
I was excited about
Rampage in the theater. I think I was just amazed by that movie because when you look at the source material, I used to play that game when I was a kid, and there's really not much to it. I mean, there's three monsters that punch buildings and grab people out of the windows and eat them. And you punch the buildings until they fall down, and then you clear the stage and you go on to the next. And so to be able to build a whole plot around it, and it was a pretty good movie. I really liked it. And you were amazing as George.
Put a lot of heart into the story too, because George has a backstory. His family was killed by poachers, and he's an albino. And I saw the pictures, the behind the scenes where you got those big like crutch like things on your arms, and you got all the little dots for the motion capture on your face next to the rock. And doing the same thing over and over, running out of that scene where you're running out of the lab into the street in Atlanta. Was it in Atlanta that you guys shot that movie? Yeah. And it was like the summer, right? So I can't imagine that would have been, pleasant to do several takes of that.
Call it Hot Atlanta.
Yeah, right.
It's humid. It's hot. I mean, a lot of the stuff we did was indoors, but the moment you turn off the AC for sound, and if you have to, and then you've got all the lights on, and you're doing it, one of the days was a 19-hour day.
Ooh.
After a 15-hour day. And they were like the most emotional. They were like the him in pain, growing, breaking out of the what's going on, panic attack, breaking out of the zoo and whatnot. That's exhausting. I was so exhausted for like 4 or 5 days after that. Like everything hurt, and then I was not sore just in time for the next day that I was back on set. But I mean, that was to get to have Weta doing the visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
To be alongside The Rock. So it would, for me, it was really easy to take it as super seriously as I possibly could. Because I was like, dude, I've been working for an opportunity like this my whole life. And I'm going to be alongside The Rock, and I get to play the main character. Like, George, without George, there's no movie. And someone pointed that out to me when I got up there, like, or over there, because I was kind of downplaying my role in it, and it was The Rock's movie. And the DP was like, what are you talking about? Without George, there's no movie. And I was like, oh God, you're right. Oh man.
And it was smart to pick the relatable monster. The gorilla is the more relatable of the other two are really kind of more
and bring in a little bit of that Coco the gorilla thing where the gorilla can sign and communicate. So it gives them more stuff to do and a different way to communicate with the characters and stuff like that. So that was really good.
It was really smart of them to do it that way. And Coco was an inspiration. Snowflake is another one that was an albino gorilla. So they kind of based it on a combination of that. And, if I'm Coco, then Dwayne was, Dr. Penny Patterson, basically. But then this, based in science in a way, the CRISPR genetic editing stuff it's a real thing. I don't know if it would go to the extent that we had it, but it's the relationship at the center. Terry Notary trained me for it.
Oh yeah, was he the movement coach?
Yes, so he trained everybody on Avatar and all the Planet of the Apes movies. He is so many of the apes in Planet of the Apes, including Rocket, who is Caesar's right-hand ape in those three movies. Mm-hmm. He's trained everyone everywhere. I mean, it's just he's incredible what he's worked on. He trained me one-on-one for 3 weeks in the Santa Monica Mountains, becoming a gorilla. And I remember him saying, if that first scene works, if we can get that first scene when you're giving him the middle finger, and if people look at you and look at George, if they fall in love with him there, they're going to go on the whole movie with you. He said that first scene is everything. If that doesn't work, And so we
Yeah.
really worked on how do we make this relationship work so fast in like 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing, the editing, everything, I just did my part the best I could, but all of it came together to where, so like I'm sitting in theaters and no one knows it's me, and people laughing, big laughs at what George is doing, or getting really quiet when it's emotional,
gesticulating to the camera and stuff like that. Yeah.
It was so cool being there, being like, it works. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's funny because yesterday was National Gorilla Suit Day, which apparently is January 31st. So I was watching Rampage, and I didn't know that. I was looking around, and then I saw someone post stuff about monkey gorilla suits, and I was like, "Hey, it's National Gorilla Suit Day," and I was like, "Wow, I couldn't be better to watch Rampage on a day like this."
That's great.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed George. Really great character, and the way they translated your movement with the behind the scenes stuff that I saw, the way that the gorilla is moving. Most people might think that most of that stuff is like CGI, but it is CGI. But it's the performance is yours. Like you're the one moving. You're moving like on all fours and jumping around and rushing, and that's translating into the final character. So that was really great work. And just I'm glad that he's, spoilers. I'm glad that he survives at the end because he's just such a fun, relatable character. And the last scene is just so funny. So funny when he's doing the gestures and stuff.
Have they talked about making another movie?
They have. I mean, that was the intention. And even the head of the studio, when I met with him, he was saying like, oh, definitely a sequel.
Yeah.
Afterwards, but that was in 2018.
Yeah,
right.
And I think it's a thing of just Dwayne has kids. He's got like 8 businesses. He has to be super picky with his projects. The last few years, he's been doing like kind of like one a year, something like that. Okay. So he's got to look at. I imagine. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but I imagine he's got to look at, if I pick one, maybe 2 things a year, maybe. What am I going to do? And I know he's taking more of a serious turn now too, which I'm really excited for, because working with him one-on-one, especially in that bear cave scene, he is very good. He is very good, and he's a great actor. And he says, "Hey, I love doing the popcorn family movies. They have a place, but I really want to challenge myself now with this movie that I forget the title of it. It's the biopic on is it an UFC fighter, I think, or wrestler?
I hadn't heard about that one.
And there you look up pictures, you'll see him in makeup, and like he almost looks, oh crap, that's him. Like he looks over, and he trained for a period of time, and so it's going to be like a drama biopic. I forget what it's called, but I'm excited because when I worked with him, I was like, he does a lot of fun, silly, big action movies, and he's great at that. And he's really good when the drama calls for it. I'd really like him to see him in a role that demands that of him, because I think he'd do great. I think he'd surprise a lot of people, just like how other people have whenever they make that turn, like whether it's Matthew McConaughey or Steve Carell or so many people, when they actually take on that role that demands that, they're like, oh, they just haven't had that opportunity based on the script in the project yet. So
yeah.
But your breakthrough role, I would say, was probably Ryuk in Death Note, right? I mean, that's for Netflix, which I also was a fan of Death Note. And I knew that I had seen some movies, live action movies that they made in the mid 2000s, where Ryuk is much more prominent. In the Netflix one, he's more like he's more like a death god that stays in the shadows and stuff. But there's some scenes where he's like doing a lot of physicality, especially the Ferris wheel at the end and all that. But
and trashing that detention room, right? In the
right,
yep.
Right, yeah. But really good stuff, and also what a pairing to have Willem Dafoe do the voice for the character.
Yeah.
And it was mostly a physical suit, right?
Yes, everything was physical except for literally, like my face right here. They literally cut.
Oh, okay.
They had a prosthetic, and the visual effects supervisor, Colin Strauss, who was telling me about, the next movie I'm doing is Rampage with The Rock. That's how that ended up happening. They had it was all practical, and then they said, well, look, just cut out the face right here, and then we'll keep it. So we have as much practical, but then this way, because the face is going to be CGI, it's going to be performance capture based off of Willem's voice, and we're going to give him a booth and put dots on his face and a facial camera and whatnot. So just cut that out so Jason can breathe. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. Thank you so much. Because it was hot under that thing. I was like, wow, I can't see. I can't. Which that's what you get into. But I was so glad when he was like, he said that. But he said also, it's going to be visual effects anyway, so we're not going to use that. But then also, the actors can act with Jason. They can look him in the eyes. And so that was really, and I didn't meet Willem until the premiere. You know, I walked up to him and said, Willem, hi, I'm Jason. I play Ryuk. And he said, oh, I play Ryuk too. And, he's such a joyful, just ball of fun. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah,
That's great. And seeing you in that costume, the first thing that I thought of is Rawhead Rex. I thought, wow, I bet Jason would be a great Rawhead Rex if they ever made a remake of that.
Yeah, that's a character that Clive Barker created as well. I'm not sure if you ever saw that movie, Rawhead Rex. It's supposed to be a 9 foot tall
monster.
Yeah, monster. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
That would be tremendous. He's more like a monster that he's buried in the English countryside under a big marker, and then he's like part of these creatures that used to roam the British countryside. They would call them the Tall Man. So that would be if they ever do a Rawhead Rex adaptation.
Rawhide Rex.
Rawhead
Rex. Rawhead Rex. It's one of the stories in the Books of Blood, which was the first anthology that Clive Barker released of short stories.
Gotcha.
So if you haven't read that one, I do recommend it.
There's also a 1986 movie the year before Hellraiser.
It's not very good at all. It's
not. And that's the kind of movie I think we need to remake, right? Is the ones that were bad. But
the ones that were bad, that's right.
I'm gonna look at it. Maybe this, you planting this seed right here, is what ends up in a few years.
Let's hope so. Yeah. Were you happy with Ryuk? Did you want him to have a little more screen time? Because I definitely wanted to see more of Ryuk.
I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I would have. Always, sure. I'll take.
Usually he had wings and stuff, but for this Netflix version, they took out the wings.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many different. At first, it was going to be a practical puppet.
Oh.
And they were looking at, in order to do that, it just wouldn't have practically worked with the sets. And that's when they were looking at, okay, we need a person inside of a suit to do as much practical as possible, because we can't go full CGI because you don't have the budget and it'll look terrible.
Yeah.
So they ended up, the special effects shop at the time that had it, I knew in LA, and they contacted me on a Saturday. They said, hey, what are you doing the next 4 months? I was working at Outback Steakhouse. I had no big roles before that. And I was like, why? And they brought me in on Monday, and I saw the puppet, and they said, yeah, but they're looking for a guy now. And then that led to an audition, and I worked my butt off on it, and I crushed it. I felt so good. And then I got a call back, and then I did great with that, and then I got the offer on a Friday, and I cried, and I was like, oh, and then I had to go into a shift at Outback. But the whole weekend I was like, do I have it? Is it official? Like, am I... Like, don't upset them, agent. Don't make, like, oh my gosh, do I? And then I finally, found out more on Monday. Like, yeah, I told you on Friday, you have it. So it was a huge role, because it was the first time I got actually booked in I didn't have my name in the credits in a TV series or a film at all before that. I had short film.
Yeah.
And so I got
short that you had been in NYU, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Non-paying, and so the fact that, hey, we're going to fly you up to Vancouver for 10 weeks. We're going to put you up. We're going to pay you this much. We're going to give you per diem and all that. That was amazing. And so it was so much fun playing him. It's kind of a recurring theme with most characters I play. They're largely untouchable by anybody else in the scene.
Yeah.
Whether it's King Ghidorah, right. I mean, he does end up dying. George in most situations, Chatterer, Ryuk, they're when they step into a room, they're the highest status. Everybody else kind of bows to them. It's a lot of fun to play. But yeah,
how much creative freedom do you have when bringing the characters to life? Are you involved in character design or movement choices?
design, no. I mean, yeah, once you get in, they're looking for, they don't know what they want is what, I've been taught. Like that's you as the actor to bring that character to life.
Mm-hmm.
And the director will direct you and say, let's try it this way, let's try it that way. Like one day I remember that I had a lot, like when Ryuk is sitting on the bed with light and he's explaining the rules and he kind of gets fed up like, oh my gosh, all these rules and this and that, why do we have to do this? And he like motions over the book and flips over the book and that's one rule and that's another rule. And that whole scene, I prepared my whole idea and I'm going to get, and how I would move around the room and all that. Then I get there like, okay, so you're going to sit here on the bed for the whole scene. I was like, oh, well, I was going to do this whole thing. They're like, no, yeah, you're going to sit on the bed right here the whole time. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like, cool. I'm going to sit on the bed and I can play. This is the playground fence. I'm here. So whatever I want to do from here, however I want to. And Adam was really great at directing. So you don't have any say typically in the design. That was designed and started getting built before, I came on. Right. But then in playing it on set, obviously we have the lines there and whatnot, but if I have suggestions, I want to try something I can. And if maybe it's better in the moment, accidents happen. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Sure. No. And I also had the chance to see you as the Ryuk in Stereoscope, which I was able to find that on Facebook Watch. Yeah. And I watched all 10 episodes of that. That was a great monster as well. Very interesting concept for the show with a, Viewmaster that will switch you in between different alternative worlds and dimensions. That looked pretty fun to do as well. And the Ryuk is extremely scary.
Yeah, that was a challenging one. Mm-hmm. Because that was filmed up in about an hour north of where we are in LA. It was in Santa Clarita. And so the first few days were super hot. And I'm in this thing head to toe I'm glued into for like 4 hours.
In black, yeah.
And I'm in it. I'm glued into it all day for like 12 hours. And a change that they made after they made it on me made it very uncomfortable. So they built it on my body, and then they decided, well, we want the shoulders to be a little bit bigger. And so they decided, well, we're going to build inside to make the shoulders bigger. But what that does is now that's making the suit stretch.
Right.
Which then is making the suit pull down on your shoulders.
Right.
Yeah.
With no release of that tension.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like just put 10 pounds on each shoulder and just let it sit there.
Yeah, it's going to be painful.
Over an hour or two, it got incredibly painful. And I'm glued into it for 12 hours at a time. I wanted to quit so bad because it was so painful. I was like, I have to do this for like 14 days of shooting or something like that. Like, no freaking way. And I was going to a massage therapist. And I was talking with the producers. There's nothing we can do. We're filming. We have this location for this many weeks. And they were paying for me to go to a massage therapist a few times. And the massage therapist was like, what are you doing? And I explained. He's like, oh, okay, well, you're going to be in pain. You'll be fine. There's like a 1% chance you'll get like a pinched nerve or something, but 99% you should be fine. You're just going to be really sore. Just keep coming back to me and I'll release all the lactic acid and all this. So that was a lot of like a couple hours into the day. It was just constant pain on my back, on my upper back and my muscles. I just literally have to breathe through it for about 10 hours nonstop and then go act. And it was really profusely hot and sweaty the first couple of days. And then then I didn't work for like a week and it got really cold and we went to overnights. And so now it was freaking freezing. And it didn't have a bathroom. They forgot like, oh yeah, you have to go to the bathroom.
Oh my God.
So they they split it into 10-1 and 10-2. Those are I need to go 10-1 or I need to go 10-2. You can imagine what they both are.
Sure.
We had a 10-1 option we figured out. They did not have a 10-2 option.
Oh,
so
wow.
they said, if it happens, we'll just cut you out in that area. and we never had to. Somehow, across 12-hour days.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you want coffee? No, I do not want
Oh my God. You suffer for your art. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, that was tough. And then it's different when you rehearse with nothing on, and then you get everything on and it restricts you in certain ways. And so that was a challenge of pushing through, knowing they're depending on me as their monster. I can't quit. Of course I can't quit. What are they going to do? How fast will that? No, of course I can't, as much as I want to. Because this sucks. Oh my gosh. But it was a really great lesson of just, you're not going to die.
Yeah.
Push through.
It works really well, though. I mean, the monster, the reek, and that. I felt like I wanted to re-edit the whole thing, but that's a different question. But in terms of
into 10, because it was 10 episodes basically.
But it gets a little confusing. But the monster itself is just so cool. Like when it crosses the veil, it's a mixture between the Demogorgon and the alien, and it's just the way he moves is so scary. It's really good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I learned a lot. That was one of the biggest challenges I'd ever had. Making that work and the physicality of it. I did get one really great compliment on that, though. Someone came up to me afterwards, and because most of the time I get put in it and then I walk on set and I'm just in it, so no one knows what I look like. Like the cast and crew, they don't really maybe they didn't meet me, and someone thought that I was Doug Jones. They're like, oh, they got Doug Jones for it. They thought that I was like, what a compliment.
Sure. He's in everything. Yeah.
I will take that. Later, I thought you were Doug. And I was like, thank you. I will be the second Doug for sure.
Yeah.
When there was the scene of
I have a sort of a Hellraiser Hellraiser question that's been bugging me ever since I first saw the new 2022 movie. Was there any direction on the motivation for the scene where the Chatterer is killed? Right, because when he gets stabbed and then he kind of puts his hands up and backs up, and I was thinking this could say a lot about the world that these characters live in, because does he want to die? Is he welcoming getting torn apart, or is he just resigned himself to well, I guess that's it for me?
It's a good question, and definitely talked with David about that for sure. That basically it's almost like this is the way.
Yeah.
The moment that he gets stabbed in the gut by it is a complete surrender of well played, good job. Okay, total acceptance and surrender. Now this is my part. This is my, and I will go back and totally take it on. Now he doesn't die. When you get taken, you don't die.
Right.
You just get taken. He got taken in many parts. So there's no reason why he couldn't come back as something else.
They can restitch him back together.
Yeah. Well, and that sort of leads to another question, right? Because there's been talk of the sequel, and maybe you can't say anything about it, or maybe you don't know yet, but is there anything that you could say?
Keith Levine apparently said that there's another sequel in the works, but that was back that was some time ago.
First Omen came out?
Yeah, I think so.
There was interviews for First Omen. And actually I know the girl who was interviewing him when he said that. So it's funny coincidence how we ended up meeting. But as far as I know, there's nothing happening.
Okay.
I know it's kind of like with Rampage, with so many things. Everyone's like, we want to make another one and get paid more money and go and all hang out and make something and get together. But then it's, who's going to give you the millions of dollars to do that?
Yeah.
So it could happen, but as of right now, I've heard nothing concrete about that happening. I've heard wishes, but nothing concrete.
Yeah. Did you ever get to meet Nicholas Vince, who played the first Chatterer, by any chance?
We have not met, but we are connected and have messaged on Instagram.
So, nice.
We hug each other at some point. Yeah.
Sure, that would be tremendous. His unofficial nickname on set when they were making the first Hellraiser was Poor Bastard. because he had that thing on, so he couldn't see anything. He had the dentures in front of his own mouth, and he kept slobbering all over himself, and bring in the poor bastard. But I guess in the Hulu Hellraiser, there was an even poorer bastard, which was Asphyx, right? The Zachary played Asphyx, and that's an even worse makeup than you had, because the arms are like tied up to the front. That must have been terrible.
It was, everybody, all of the makeups were beautiful.
Yeah.
What Josh and Sierra was incredible. However, just based on what the characters are, we're going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The Asphyx is someone who they have skin over, their head, pulling it back, tied things behind them. Their arms are tied in front of them. Yeah. And so they're just, and then they have a thing there, so that makes their back arch like that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so while sitting, just hanging out, Zach is just
there's no way that you could be comfortable.
Yeah. And so they found ways to release that, because actually Zach and I never were actually on set at the same time. Shatter was only in so many scenes. The only time Shatter is in a scene with another Cenobite other than the priest is in that creepy hallway where she gets pulled up by her back gets pulled off. But Zach Zach was a beast pushing through that, because that's a lot to deal with. And by the end of the shoot, the first couple of days, and that was something David asked me, nobody else had ever been in any kind of prosthetics or makeup or anything. And so he said, can you kind of get them ready for that and talk to them and talk if they need help, because you've done a lot of that stuff. And I was like, I can, but nothing me talking to you is going to prepare you for when you actually are in it on the day and you hate your life.
Right.
Nothing. Oh, I totally get it. I'm prepared. No, you're not.
Right.
It's better than if I didn't prepare you. Let me prepare you for it. You're going to hate it. It's going to suck. You're going to find things that hurt so bad and all this, but you're not going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you're done and they say moving on, that scene is done forever. So actually find a way to enjoy it as much as possible. And it's going to make you stronger afterwards. You're going to be able to handle so many things. And people are going to be like, oh my gosh, are you uncomfortable because of the air conditioning in here or something? You'll be like, you'll think back to when you were a Cenobite and you'll be like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm very comfortable.
You kind of covered part of this, but we had a question. One of our questions from our listeners, Padre in our Discord, said, has he ever talked with Nicholas Vince, or how do they feel about, and he means, how do you feel about playing the latest iteration of such a beloved cult favorite? So you answered the first part already. But...
It's really, I feel very grateful and very blessed that people already loved Ryuk. No. And I knew from the beginning, well, they're going to like Willem, surely. But if they don't, they're going to blame Willem and not the dude who's in suit. So either way, I win. And most people seem to like Ryuk as the most out of the whole movie in Death Note.
Yeah, I agree. That was my take also.
Yeah, people really, there were changes, and then George and Rampage, people play, I grew up playing that game, and I loved it. I always played as George or whatever. And then King Ghidorah and Godzilla, people have loved King Ghidorah for 60 years.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And then here comes Hellraiser. I'm like, these are just the roles I get. I get roles of characters people already loved, and then hopefully they don't hate me for the way that I make it, And if they don't like it, then they're probably going to never know it was me, They're never going to say, hey, you out in the street. No one recognizes me out in the street. They just think I'm tall. But yeah, for playing Chatterer, I thought I was very, very grateful, very excited that, again, this is a character who's been in multiple Hellraisers. I think other than Pinhead, that Chatterer's been some iteration more than any other Cenobite.
You're right.
Second, or maybe second most, but I think most. And so I was like, how cool. And he's like the muscle. He's the Darth Vader. If the priest is Emperor Palpatine, he's Darth Vader. He's the one who goes out there and says, okay, I'll answer to you, and I'll take care of anybody who needs to be taken care of. And I thought
Clive Barker's initial conception of him was that he would be kind of jumping around on all fours like a monkey. But once the suits got made and everything, it was like, well, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like with the original Predator, it was going to be Jean-Claude Van Damme doing all kinds of stuff, and they got him in a suit and he couldn't do any of it.
Yeah, right.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And then we got Kevin Peter Hall.
Yeah. Let's get the tallest guy we can find who just walks menacingly and stuff and all that. So
a lot better.
I was very grateful. I was very grateful, very excited. And that was a challenging one as well. I've talked about how like the head caused a lot of pain and more and more.
Because there was a mechanism to make the teeth chatter, right?
There was that in there. That wasn't the issue. It was like it was just because this is the thing. Like whenever you have and what Josh and Sierra made is amazing. It's so beautiful, and everyone who sculpted and everything like that, it's amazing. Yeah. When you have a fitting, you try it on for a short period of time. So there's certain things you don't actually find out till you get on set.
Sure.
That caused a discomfort, and so the first day was a pretty short day, just in the apartment when they're on the bed doing some love, and then he's just creepy standing there watching for a second, and then he disappears. That was a short day. I was only in it for like everything less than an hour. Super hot and sweaty though. Oh my gosh, I was literally sweating through the silicone somehow. And then a few weeks later was my next day. It was an overnight. It was at the gate, and so I was like, oh, it's going to be cold, so the heat's going to be nothing. Yeah. Great. But since there was no discomfort there, I started to notice after about 10 or 15 minutes, the head just, it feels like it's like a little too tight.
Yeah.
It was made on my head. And it caused this pain to just slowly build over 10 or 15 minutes. And then it would get to like 100%. I might pass out. This hurts so bad.
Yeah.
And then keep going.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I thought it was at 100%. And so like, I was on the verge of tears that night, but I didn't say anything. I was just talking to makeup being like, what is going on? And I thought maybe there's something poking me, a screw or something. It hurts so bad.
Yeah.
And then, but then I ended up, David Bruckner found out and it was like, what happened last night? And then we FaceTimed the next day and I explained to him, he's like, oh my God, why didn't you say anything? And I was like, well, we had to shoot. What am I going to say? Like, we got to go through the scenes. We got to go through the takes. And so we figured out, he's like, okay, well then we'll do this. So you can kind of like, because I explained to him, you take it off, 1 minute later, it's back down to.
Right. Because that thing around your shoulders had the part that's almost like bolted on.
They were
literally bolted on, right?
They were real bolts. So I was bolted into this thing. So even when I'm like, get it off, it would still take a minute or two, but we just, the crew was so amazing at just dealing with that. And we just got really good at just, let's sprint for 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. And if I tap out, like we have to stop and get it off. Because past 10 minutes, it was just unbearable.
Tim Raymakers from our Discord said, how was the makeup process? And have you ever been through something like that before? It sounds like you kind of answered that.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the makeup process, so none of it was actually glue or makeup. It was all prosthetics and a suit. So it was a suit, one piece with no zipper, from everything but the hands, feet, and head.
Okay.
So that whole torso part down to my ankles was one silicone rubber piece with no zippers. So it took like 3 or 4 people with a lot of lube. And then just being like, I'm getting my hands down in there to get this thing up, like 10 or 15 minutes of just.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And we're like, okay, just hold on. And it was exhausting for all of us. And then I'm in.
Like putting on hip waders times 1,000.
Yeah. And it literally took 3 or 4 people and a ton of lube. So I'm just in there. The lube would dry and get crusty all over me throughout. And then if I had to use the restroom, we had to take it all off.
Right.
And so I would hold it for as long as possible. One day I held it for 7 hours. But I was like, you sleep and you don't go to the bathroom. So,
oh my God,
that's fine. I'll just not do,
And you're sweating and you're getting dehydrated.
Well,
and
once it got cold, and he doesn't do any running or anything. So I didn't actually sweat in it after the first day. Because after that, I didn't work for like a month or something. And then it was cold. The temperature dropped 20 to 30 degrees. We were shooting mostly overnight or interior.
This was in Belgrade, Serbia, right?
Belgrade, Serbia.
Okay.
And so I wasn't sweating at all. And it was just dealing with, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom 1,000 times before we get in. And I'm basically I'm gonna wait in the bathroom till they say, all right, we're ready for you to get in. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Because I'm not gonna have, I don't know if I'm gonna for 4 or 5 or 6 hours. And then just dealing with that head and communicating, but it got so simple, and there's just the weird thing of you're so excited to get out of it at the end of the day for anything, and then when you're done, you're like, really? Well,
Yeah.
like it's so weird. It's so weird. But yeah, that was a challenge. That was a challenge, and so much fun. So much.
We have a little comment here from Nicholas Vince about your work as a chatterer, because our friend Ed Martinez, who interviewed Mikey Rotella and Josh and Sierra and Keith Thompson, he posted a video on YouTube about the whole process of the chatterer, and then Nicholas Vince commented, "It's so wonderful to hear that Mike is a fan of the original. I love that what he and Jason achieved with this evocation of the chatterer. Great to hear about all the detail, which naturally you don't get to see in the movie. I love the idea of the hollow chatter because the torso shows up to be kind of hollow. I don't know if that was a little bit of CGI there, but like the chatterer had this abdomen didn't have any organs or something. And the texture of the pale skin. I'm delighted that 35 years after the original, Chatterer and the other Cenobites are still inspiring such talented artists. Also great to hear about the process for creating the makeup. Love the idea of the skin being twisted from the lips at the back of the head. Lovely to hear Nigel Booth name checked. And the ears, a child's ears, brilliant. As I've been saying since I first saw this film, I love this Chatterer." So that was great to see Nicholas Vince talk about that, your performance, the whole makeup thing, and the fact that Chatterer is such an integral part of the whole, Hellraiser mythology of sorts. Yeah.
It's really cool to hear. I mean, that movie, the original movie, came out the year I was born.
Did you get to see the first Hellraiser? Was it a movie that you saw frequently, or?
No. Before I did watch it. I watched when I'd never seen it before I got the audition for Hellraiser.
Oh, okay.
Never watched it. I kind of probably, especially growing up and going to church and stuff when I was a kid and all that, I just kind of felt like, well, if I watch that, I'm probably going to hell, so I shouldn't watch it.
Let's see what this clacker guy is all about.
I remember seeing the VHS in Blockbuster and being like, I'm gonna get in trouble if I just look at it. I'm just not supposed to. I remember seeing that, being like, that just looks like the devil. I'm not supposed to look at that. And so to hear him say that is very, very cool. Obviously, if I'm playing a character that someone else has played, I really hope that it does it justice. And
definitely.
It's really cool to be able to do that. And I met a couple times Doug Bradley and at conventions, and the first time before the movie came out, and he was leaving, and I was like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. And then he stopped, and we talked for a few minutes, and I remember him asking me questions, asking like, well, what do they do with this? I was like, I'm not really supposed to talk about it. And he could have totally been like, I'm Pinhead, tell me what's going on.
Right.
But he was like, okay, no, I understand. But then I got to talk to him again after it come out. And for 15 minutes, he just, I didn't even ask him. I was like, hey, he's like, I remember, and he stood up. There's a whole line of people waiting to meet him. And he just, for 15 minutes, until someone said, Mr. Bradley, I'm so sorry, we got a whole line and we're closing soon. He was telling me all his thoughts about the movie and about the characters and about how I played. And it was a really cool moment of him and I just locking eyes for like 15, 20 minutes, all these people. And he had apologized. He said, I'm sorry, line, he's the Chatterer in the new film. So we were talking, and I was like, that was a really cool moment.
He's got a whole book about his experience playing Pinhead. It's called Sacred Monsters. Really good book. He talks a lot here about his inspiration from the Universal monsters all the way to, anything that he's done, and how he kind of really only after you have the makeup on is when you actually crystallize into the character. You look at yourself in the mirror, and that's when you can see him. I guess with the Chatterer, it's a little different because you don't see yourself in the mirror that much. Once the head goes on, it probably becomes really hard. But I really enjoy that, and I do hope that Keith Levine will was talking about a sequel for this Hellraiser, and that we'll get to see more of the Chatterer because, like you said, he's taken, but he's not gone. The Chatterer can come back. They just can stitch him all back together and bring him back, this time with a more comfortable makeup, probably. Because, you know, in the second one, the chatter has eye holes because Nicholas Vince is like, I want to have eyes. I want to be able to see, because once you're complete deprivation, you know, it's like you start just seeing things where there's nothing there. It's
I was able to see like that. So you can see me through there.
Yeah, a little dot, a little hole there, a pinhole.
When it's held like this, you can't see that.
Right, so you can see your mark.
So I had too little of those.
Yeah.
Look all the way up against your eye. You can see okay. Let me unblur myself there. Okay. You can see okay. You just can't see below here or above here. So you have to to see the ground, you have to look down, and so you just find your footing of, let me walk through 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. This is my footing. Okay.
Did you have a decent enough range of motion to be able to look up and down and stuff?
Yes, but I can't, in the scene, I can't be like, I'm coming. Okay, let me look at where I'm walking.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
One of the toughest parts was when Chatter walks up out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are steps there.
Right.
And they had green fabric on the steps, not like glued to it or stapled to it, just kind of like in there and just laid on the steps because they're going to green screen that out. And in that hole that they dug, the steps are not the full width of the hole. They're just some of it. So there is a chance to step off to the left or step off to the right. And I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And so it was so difficult, literally in these sweaty, looby, silicone rubber feet, walking up these steps with cloth just laid on it, just wooden steps that some carpenters put together.
Trip hazard.
And you have to do it confidently. But also, like, David didn't want me like stepping up to come like this. He wanted me to kind of like come out of it, it's kind of just kind of glide up the steps as if they're nothing, and then turn and go. And like that was the moment we started to discover what's happening.
Right, the head thing.
So my head, that's the moment my head started to really freaking hurt, and we had to go, let's do one more, try like this, and I had communicated to no one yet, so I'm like, what the crap is happening? Ow. Ugh. I'm trying to just release, but it's like skin, it's got a fiberglass helmet basically inside that perfectly fits, and there's no moving it. And then the silicone rubber's over that, so like I'm dealing with that and walking and stepping and finding the right line to walk on to chase after them going towards the gate. And so like that was it's like, oh, you just walk up out and just walk over there. It's so much more difficult than that when you're actually in the thing.
Oh man!
But something you asked earlier about how I got into like creatures and monsters stuff. It was the height, and then I discovered that, and like I know that's what I'm getting into. Whenever you get into that, like Doug Jones talks about that too. When you're going to play these characters, you're getting into hours of makeup and maybe having to hold it and go to the bathroom for a while, and discomfort and pain and weight and soreness and all this, and like that's what you put up with.
Yeah. When we're talking
at the end of the day, and you feel like Superman, you're like, God, I'm so strong. I pushed through the most physically, mentally tough day of my life. Holy crap, that was so awesome. And I feel good about it. Yes. And we never do that again. Yes. I can't wait to see it. It's a really good feeling.
And how do you mentally and emotionally prepare to embody creatures that are non-human like Ghidorah and King of Monsters? Because I mean, he's not humanoid, Ghidorah, right? So what exactly were we seeing there when he's got 3 heads and wings and he's like, how was that motion capture like for you?
Yeah, that was, to prepare for it, I did all that. A lot of the preparation, it matters, but it doesn't matter, because once you get there, you're going to play around with whatever it is. Kind of like how I had the whole thing set up for Ryuk, and then they said, sit on the edge of the bed and do everything from there.
Right.
Well, I have what it does is it gives preparation helps relieve stress and worry and anxiety.
Sure.
You're more confident because I've prepared. I've put in the time. And so when you walk in, that confidence of, I've tried everything up, down, left, and right, and I've exercised all the ways to do this and do what I think is best, and I'm going to come in here, but I'm going to let it go, and we're going to play and see what happens. So I do as much research as I can. So I looked at, what is King Ghidorah? Okay, so there's an acting coach that I work with. He worked with me for Hellraiser for the audition. His name is Lauren, and he's a mime coach and so many other things. He's awesome. And I come up with all these ideas of how to move, and he says, great, let's just sit down first and talk about like who this character is before you have ideas about how to move. Mm-hmm. Like, why does your character... So with Ghidorah, I was like, okay, he's a 3-headed dragon. He's not just evil. Why does he attack things? Well, if he's a 3-headed dragon, probably everything that sees him either runs or tries to kill him. Mm-hmm. What would that do your whole life if from birth, every other thing you ever saw tried to kill you or ran from you? You'd be lonely and you'd be attacked by everything. You're just defending yourself.
Right.
But you do have these other 2 heads. That's all you have, and you're never away from them.
And what are we seeing there in the motion capture? Were your arms playing the heads, or what were we seeing there?
2 other actors. So okay. I play the center head. Mm-hmm. Alan Maxon plays the right head, and Richard Jordan plays the left head.
Okay.
So the way Mike Doherty was like, you guys are 3 brothers. He's the bat crap crazy one that will kill anything or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's a little slower and a little more curious to check stuff out. People have kind of now come to call him a little derpy, you know?
Yeah, I think they named him Kevin, right?
Kevin. He's Richard's very proud of that. He's the only surviving head that goes into, Godzilla versus Kong. They take his head and then take that DNA. And so he's like, well, I get to be in the sequel. Dead like that. He's like, but I'm in it. Yeah. And then I'm the big brother. I'm the alpha. I'm in charge. And so I think about, well, why am I in charge? Well, if I'm in the middle, they're kind of protecting me. They get beat up on more. I'm more protected. And so, maybe they literally have concussions. So I think about all this stuff. Of like, how would this fuel my relationship with them? And what happens in the movie? We get woken up from being frozen for thousands of years. And what's the first thing we encounter? Getting shot at.
Yeah.
And at first we're just kind of defending ourselves and looking at them. And then finally I get their attention, like, all right, let's blast these things. And so I can't see it at the villain never sees itself as the bad guy. To them, they're the hero. And so, so then just playing, and then I looked at, okay, from the, if I am the head, from my waist up to here is kind of like a snake body. Kind of. So let me look at how snakes fight. Let me watch videos of snakes. Let me go to the zoo and look at snakes. From here, it's kind of like some kind of a, just, there's not a lot of articulation, just a fix like a gator or a lizard. Just,
yeah.
It's just very fixed and very focused. And what do they look like when they move around? What's their stillness look like? When do they attack something? And then imagine what's it like to pull some energy up through my body and then blast it out. What would that feel like? You get shot back like you shoot a gun. And you just play with all that stuff, but it's all about who the character is too. Like if I was a human, why would I be doing? Okay, now let me put that into the physicality of this character, and then we get on set, and they tried by tying our ankles together, and we'll move together. And they said that's too tough, you guys. Jason, you just be the legs. We'll put the trackers on your feet.
Okay.
And then you just, since you're in the center, so we tried like Alan, you take one wing, and Richard, you take another. So the wings are like.
Yeah, the moment where Ghidorah is over the volcano and it's just spreading its wings. It's just such a iconic shot right there.
It was tough. It was tough. Them like we're having to sink our feet, and they're like, Jason, you be the feet, you be the wings from the center. So you do everything wing wise, and then Alan just focus on the head. Richard just focused on the head, and what they ended up doing was Alan would put his left arm on my back. And Richard put his right arm on my back and we just did our best to just move together. And they said like when they would feel my back, they'd feel me tense up. And so they'd tense up with me and stuff. And so we just tried stuff, and they would show us this crappy, it's called previs, like PlayStation 2 graphics, basically. Right. The whole movie shot out. So like we only had to do so much. And we would just act through those moments how we would, and bring that relationship and those looks to each other and everything, and how we would go after something and get down and look at and smell where Millie Bobby Brown was or something. And then they take that performance and then put that into the characters. And we just did that for 3 days. We did every single scene, one after the next, opposite DJ Storm, Godzilla. We did get to go into Legendary and watch the movie before we filmed it, a year before it came out. So we saw the movie as it was edited together with some temporary music with all the crappy visual effects in there.
Right.
So we're in there like, yay, and everything. And there's like a couple like execs or someone like making sure we're not recording. And then Richard's head gets cut off and we're like, oh man. And then it starts going back. Oh my gosh, high five. Yeah. Like
I saw that. That was great.
Really, it was really fun. Like, it was such a unique experience. But yeah, for that, like I never took a class. There are classes on how to be monsters, but it's like, I just, how much can I research to go in there with so I am as prepared as possible? But then when we get in there, let's just play like we're kids playing monsters as seriously as really believe we're here, really see this little piece of paper and think that's a human we're trying to blast. And then they do all the magic. So it really is prep and then just play and just really get in the moment as much as possible.
And what was the set experience like on Hellraiser? Like, I saw a bunch of pictures from all the other Cenobite actors. They were posting after the movie came out. I saw people, with their robes sitting in their chairs, like waiting in between shots, or Jamie Clayton getting the makeup put on from absolutely nothing to like the final stage. And were you guys like, I know you guys probably didn't have a lot of screen time, all of you together, except maybe the parts where you're outside of the house and everybody's just standing there waiting to get in by the gate. But any funny anecdotes from that? Any behind the scenes like fun times that you guys had? Did you guys have breakfast together?
Well, a lot of our hangout time for me was offset.
Yeah, visiting Belgrade.
Yeah, because on set, Chatter's only in 3 scenes. Yeah. The first one in the apartment, and no other Cenobites there. So I got really close with the makeup team. The second scene that we filmed was the gate scene, and I'm the only Cenobite there. Jamie was there one night for her shot when they kind of look over and she gives the word or what the sign. And then the third scene that we shot was the one with Aoife, with her character when they rip her back off and all that with the chains and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm there with the mask and with Jamie,
like squeezing her head, right? I think, and then
pulling her down. You're pulling her down.
Head. It's almost like a the way we saw it was like kind of like a spiritual sacrifice, and we see it as like, trust us. Trust us. It's going to be better than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
It's that like, we're like welcoming you in. It's not an evil thing to us, which is freaking creepy, but it's a thing like it's better. Like the final scene, whenever you see Voight become a Cenobite, in the script, it says that his eye takes on a look of, why did I ever resist?
Yeah, almost like wonderment, right? Like being filled with
like, oh my gosh, this is better than I could have ever imagined. So like, that's how we see it, as like, we're so happy to have you. So I wasn't squeezing her head. It's almost like I cupped my hands around her, like we've got.
And then you
pull freaking creepy.
Yeah, you pull her down, and then the hook in her back kind of pulls her skin out, and she falls to the ground. Yeah,
she falls and bleeds out.
Well, there's that part of the Cenobites, right? I mean, the part of the Cenobites, it's not just about punishing or causing pain. It's pain and pleasure indivisible. So that has to be something there.
The better
and
way,
they have this attitude, like, how could anyone not like this? I don't understand. Like the machine that was in Voight. You're rejecting our gift. I don't understand.
Yeah, and that Leviathan tech was also something really new that they created for the makeups, which was super fascinating. Like the whole Leviathan tech, like the Chatter has that machinery behind his head encrusted into his skull that is kind of pulling the skin out from his lips to the back of his head. Like, that was just amazing. Like the all the detail that was put into that stuff was just beautiful.
It was a lot. But as far as and like fun stories on set, I mean, the first one, in the room when they're getting it on, just jokes about like, Chatter likes to watch. He just
right,
making that funny and
and the Chatter has almost like when you look down, he's got kind of like a little tent being pitched out of skin down there. I don't know if that was intentional or what, but
100% intentional. It was in the concept art.
Yeah.
You only see it so much. One of the funniest things that comes to mind is when they come the gate scene, when he comes up out. Well, we're going to be walking from there to there, and it's silicone with wires in there and stuff, and so when walking, when you take a step, it kind of
it wobbles.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
We had a whole talk.
Yeah,
I think David Bruckner was there, all the producers, the makeup team, visual effects, and me. So what can we do to limit the wobble?
Right.
And so they had me try some things like, okay, so let's see, how stable can you keep it while walking? And so we tried that. One of the suggestions was, what if you walk backwards and then we reverse the, what if can you just keep your hips just when you walk and just nothing was obviously work. Like, guys, it's in concept art. What do you think? And so then all right, cool. Okay, that was good. All right, thank you, Jason. Go back to your trailer. And I walk away with Josh Russell, and he just says, "Well, that was an effing waste of time."
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's such
a
great
funniest. That was one of the funniest meetings I've ever had on set.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got to limit the wobble.
There was so much time, like so many overnights. The hotel we stayed at was the Hilton. I think so much of the aspect of these films that was so exciting for me with Death Note, with Rampage, with Hellraiser, those are the three I've gone out of town for. It's like you're going on a 10-week summer camp. And only these people go, and we're never coming back.
Yeah.
And you hang out in each other's hotel rooms. And let's go to this restaurant. Let's go see that museum. Let's go to the zoo, which the zoo has less rules and whatnot there than zoos in America. In many ways, like you could you're not supposed to, but there's a hippo right there. If I wanted to, I could reach out and just
my God,
barriers. And just doing that with each other. And so we had like a big 12-person group text, and we went. That was the most fun, honestly. Like it was hard being on set and that stuff, and we would celebrate by the breakfast. There was insane. They had like a $12,000. I'm not exaggerating. Coffee machine that would make you any kind of coffee. I looked it up. We found it. Like, oh, look, here it is. It's $12,000. They had it. It was such a brand new hotel. It was so nice. And we would go down and get breakfast together. We would plan out, hey, I found this restaurant. Okay, how many of us can go? You guys are on set. We aren't. 8 of us can go. Let's go. I'll get a reservation. Or, hey, do you guys want to come up and I'll make us some tea and we'll hang out. We'll chat about the scenes and what we're doing tomorrow. And, hey, let's go. One night we would get back from overnights and it'd be morning. And so we'd, after a whole day on set, go eat breakfast together and talk about the scenes and all that, and then go to sleep. And there's those moments we're with Odessa. I remember this one time Drew and Odessa and I did that, and we just had, breakfast 2 hours after the longest night. It was after the gate scene, and we just chatted about so much stuff. Those moments are the coolest. Or I'll tell you 2 more that were really special. Drew and Odessa are in some shows that make them a big deal over there. Mm-hmm. For teens and whatnot, they're freaking out. And this was in the heart of COVID of 2021, of the Omicron. So can't have fans coming up getting pictures, and maybe they get COVID, and then and we got shut down for 2 weeks. And so there would be groups. They found out where we stayed in the hotel. There would be groups of dozens of girls hanging outside waiting. I'd pull up in a van from set, and then I'd get out, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay." They didn't care. They're looking for Drew and they're looking for Odessa. Right. And so they had to have 24-hour Eastern European security.
Oh, wow.
These guys might have killed some people. They were tough dudes. And they would try and sneak out of the hotel without security knowing, a side door or something. And security would pretty much always be and they'd have to go with them. So we went to a restaurant one night, and we were out till 1 or something like that. And it was so much fun, all 6 or 7 or 8 of us together. And security there with us. And security had to do whatever that we wanted to do. And so their job is, we're going with you. And so we wanted to go to the Belgrade Fortress, which is the #1 most visited place in Belgrade. It's this like 2,000-year-old fortress with no limits, open 24 hours a day. You can go down into the catacombs if you want to.
Oh.
So we did. And there's a video I posted of me and Drew down underground at like 2 a.m. in this like, it's like 1,500 years old. Probably people were like running weapons through here during battles. Like windows outside have chips all around them in the stone because how many shot at them?
Wow.
1,600 years ago at the Battle of whatever.
Yeah.
Because Belgrade's the most destroyed and rebuilt city in the world over 40 times the last 2,000 years. So many wars have happened right there.
Wow.
And we're just exploring the fortress by ourselves at 2 a.m. with Eastern European security. And it was so freaking cool. And then one of the last thing I'll share with you is we did that so often. So a couple dozen times we'd all go together. And one time the actor that played Voight, we went to pay and he had left early and he paid for all 12 of our, like, I don't know how much that dinner was. And we're like, what? It was like his first night there too. He only came in for the last couple of weeks. And we're like, what a boss move. But I think it was like the second to last morning I was there, Jamie and I never really got time to chat because, she was on set on these days or I was on set or whatever. And I go down and she's there at breakfast and breakfast is, kind of almost over. And she looks and I say, I'll let her be by herself. And then I was like, no, I'm going to go and say, hey. And I was like, anybody sitting here? And she's like, you are, and look like she was about to be done anyways. And like 2 hours later, when breakfast closed, we're just sitting there talking. And I got some really good one-on-one time getting to know her. And she's so sweet and cares. She was so nervous about people not liking it. She cared so much about doing it justice. She's like, I just don't want people to hate me. I'm doing the best I can. Like, you're doing freaking awesome.
Oh, we loved her.
And some people are going to hate it. Yeah. Some people hate ice cream. Like,
some people hate chocolate. I don't know.
Right? People are resistant. There's people that are resistant to change too, and it's like it doesn't no matter what you do. People
are going to love you. People are going to love you. You're doing great, and so it was just a really good bonding time with her. So it's really all those moments, and then and then you have to leave, and you're gone forever, and 2 weeks goes like that. And, I remember crying the morning I left because I was like, man, like this little adventure's over.
Yeah.
They're those moments are so special. And there are so many fun things on set too, but sets where you're working. It's fun and you're playing, but you're like, a lot of money is getting counted every second right now. We got to make sure this works.
Sure.
But it's those moments and then you create these memories with each other, exploring this Eastern European city and nobody knows you're here filming. So those are the moments that are so freaking cool.
Yeah. I just saw the picture that you posted on Instagram where you got like a flashlight, you're going through the fortress and stuff. So that we'll add that to the show notes if that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's such a cool moment with Drew. Drew and I were like, oh, this is so cool. Like, oh dang, this is like blocked here. This is like got blown in. Let's turn around.
It's like you're going to turn around a corner. You're going to come across a Cenobite.
It was, we didn't know we were going to, now looking back, it's like, I don't know what or who we're going to encounter down there. But in America, that stuff would be, and we talk about in the video, like, dude, you wouldn't be able to come down here at 2 a.m. This stuff would be gated, roped off.
Sure.
Like there's like 20-foot high walls where people just sit up there and they're just like smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer. Like they just don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't care. But it was so cool to be able to explore that type of stuff. Yeah.
Sounds like it was a great time.
If anyone goes to Belgrade, prioritize the #1 thing you need to go see is the Belgrade Fortress. That thing has so much. It's like King's Landing in Game of Thrones. Like
it's enormous.
It's still there. It's so crazy.
That's cool. We do have a few more questions from our listeners. So some of these were covered, but we'll go through them here really quick if that's okay.
Yeah. So I see the timer up there recording. If you guys want to talk longer, I can go till 1. So that's totally up to you guys.
Well, Cam's 211 on Reddit says, "Hey Jason, your chatterer was beautiful and terrifying." And then, what's your favorite vegetable? Kind of out of left field, but
probably Brussels sprouts.
All right.
Because they're like one of the healthiest, and there are so many tasty ways to make them. whether it's in a pan or in the oven. Yeah, I mean, I like healthy food. I like not healthy food, but I know how I feel after I eat it when it's healthy.
Oh yeah.
You gotta stay in shape to be able to play these things every day because they just
Right.
you wake up to an email and you're like, what? I have an audition for who?
Yeah.
You gotta be ready that day. So yeah, probably Brussels sprouts. Yeah.
Cool. I like them roasted. That's my favorite.
Yes.
So the Chili Bomb on Reddit says, "Great film. Remakes are tough, but this one delivers. How long did it take you to get into the outfit, and will there be a sequel? Any funny stories on set? And did you watch the original for inspiration?" That's a whole bunch of questions, I guess.
Yeah.
I
So
think, yeah.
we talked about a lot of that. We talked about
Yeah.
it typically took about 30 minutes to get into everything because once you got in that bodysuit, then they would get on each foot and zip up the side and all that. Then we get on the
Okay.
hands, we would get on the head and all that. So we could get, and we got it pretty quick at the end. We could, if we needed to, sometimes one pull and slip. Oh, the whole thing came off.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of the time, it took 10 or 15 minutes though.
Okay.
One time, we're like, "Oh, that was awesome. Do that again."
So just so I understand, it was a bodysuit except for the hands and feet, and
Yeah.
then there was the hard shell thing that would go in, and then the rest of the makeup would be down to the shoulders, right? With a collar.
Yeah, I'm gonna show a picture.
And then were there gloves that you would put in on your arms and feet?
Yes. So, so yeah, you can see here.
Oh, there it is.
So yeah,
Oh.
I everything but from the shoulders up. Nope. No hands
Right.
from below the knees. So
Oh,
that
there's
was
the tent you're
one-
talking about.
Yep,
Yeah, the
that
tent.
was all one thing. This was earlier. They ended up coloring, painting in the center there to make that look more gutsy and whatnot.
I just think it's so amazing that they decided to go with the whole outfit being made out of the proper skin of the Cenobite, not go with the classic leather, leather
yeah.
outfit. But
Yeah.
in a way, it's almost like leather, but it's human leather.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really inventive. That was
Yeah,
really
that's our
amazing.
concept for that, and that's Desmond there helping me get the rest of it on. Yeah, it's kind of blurry, but yeah. But yeah, it took like 30 minutes. We talked about some funny stories. There was
Yeah.
one other thing in there that I didn't talk about. What was
Did you watch the original for inspiration?
Yes. So
Right.
I think it was either before the audition.
Mm-hmm.
It was before the audition. Just to, and I did that with Ryuk too. I watched all of Death Note. I watched a handful of episodes before I only had so much time before the audition, and then watched a lot more, and then I had to call back, and then finished it, and got it, so I could just pull from as much as how would he be in real space,
Yeah.
if and he doesn't have wings, but that's why he has like that posture in the like. Imagine if you had wings coming from your shoulder blades, it'd be holding you up like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then he would kind of always have posture like that because that's just how he's been forever. And so that's why I decided that's why he's always like this, because if he's being held up by wings, he'd be like that.
Yeah.
So then he's just kind of always like this. That's his posture. That's him sitting up, which hurts
Yeah.
after a while.
Is it
But I
true
think-
that they wanted David Bowie to play Ryuk originally for that? That's
They
wild.
wanted him as the voice,
Yeah.
and then he passed away.
Yeah.
They wanted Prince as the voice.
Oh, Prince.
He
Wow.
passed away.
Wow.
Adam told me that, but he said, "Yeah, we're trying to get Willem Dafoe." He's like, "I feel like I should stop writing down actors' names or something."
Oh yeah.
That's a
Right.
weird. That's a real coincidence. And then
Yeah.
like a week into filming, he just kind of like I was on set helping out. Even the suit wasn't made. I was just there to help in whatever way I could. And he was like, "Hey, we got Willem." It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, that's perfect. That's amazing." Yeah.
And that's the
That's cool.
perfect voice for Ryuk, I guess, because if you see the original, it just fits that character so well.
Yeah.
It just
It,
really
it
does.
reminds me a little bit of in Spider-Man, when the Green Goblin is whispering
yeah.
like crazy things into his mind. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
He's got
Another
that. He's got that Ryuk
Yeah, yeah,
smile on the
exactly.
face of it too. That
Yeah. Another question here from Reddit from Fashion Badger. He asked what it was like taking such an iconic role as the Chatter. I think you've mentioned that, but then he asked, what did you think of the redesign? What did you think of the redesign in terms of like the original versus this one? I know there were different stages of the Chatter makeup for this Hellraiser, They had one that they called the Egghead first, which was a more smooth face for the Chatterer. Then there was one where they had like a more suggestive opening in the front, and then finally, when they got to do the cast for you, they sorted out the final design. But what did you think of that?
I was shown I was pulling up a photo of it because I was shown before I had fully accepted it, because I was also in talks at the time for Cocaine Bear.
Oh yeah!
Oh wow!
Bear, and
for the bear.
Yeah, for the bear.
Wow!
And so I was looking at that, and I was like, oh man, like which one would I rather take? And Cocaine Bear never became an offer, so I talked with I'm blanking on her name now, the director, and like I came up on Zoom, and it was her and like 12 other screens turned off. I was like, whoa, hi everyone, for like 30 minutes. And so I wasn't sure which way I was going to go yet, but then I talked with David, and he talked with me for a couple hours about the character, and he showed me the designs, and so I saw that design for
Thompson's, and
I was like, oh my gosh, you need to just get Doug Jones. He'd be perfect in that. I can just see Doug in there, and then he explained to me like why the character looks that way and why we're going that way, and then he showed me all the other ones too, and how the priest's like her skin skirt is skin. I was like, oh my god, my parents are not going to be happy. Like,
right? Yeah.
I remember telling my dad, he's like, this is fantastic. I was like, you know what Hellraiser is? And he's like, oh, it's a movie. I'll watch it. And I'd read the script. I was like, I don't think you're going to want to watch it. And then the trailer came out, and he was like, oh my gosh, that's really dark. I mean, if the movie's that dark, I'm like, Dad, that's the trailer. Like, that's what they could show. He's like, okay, well, I love you, and I'm proud of you. I'm not going to watch that one.
Now imagine there's an anecdote of Clive Barker with his mother during the premiere of Hellraiser. And he said his mother was really happy to see his name show up, directed by Clive Barker. But then he turned to his mom and said, well, that's the happiest you're going to be for the next hour and 30 minutes.
They still haven't, as far as I know, they still haven't seen it. I thought the concept was incredible. Did I see it? Is this? Oh, it's still recording. Okay. I just see, the scheduled meeting time is over. Okay. That's
yeah, no big deal. So Kona Trades on Reddit says, are you a fan of body horror, or does it get to you? If so, does that make the job like this harder or easier?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a fan of anything that's good.
Mm-hmm.
If it's good, I don't really think then great. I'm not a fan of any particular genre. Like, there are bad movies in every genre, right? And just because it's that certain genre does not mean I want to watch it. My wife and I are pretty tough critics, and if we watch something that's not good, we're like, I do not want to finish this. This is a bad 20 minutes. Turn this off. But if it's good, I'll watch it. It's very rare now that any kind of effect will actually get me because I just know how they're made. What's interesting is when you watch a movie, you know it's fake.
Yeah.
But you'll still feel sometimes in like the pit of your stomach, like, oh gosh, like, it's fake, but a part of your mind and body gets tricked.
Yeah.
So typically what happens, like I got tricked multiple times in the first Omen. My body got tricked multiple times, and like it kind of hit, oh my gosh. And if you've seen the first Omen, there are several shots in that like, wow, they're still holding on this shot. Holy crap.
Right.
It just makes me laugh now because I'm laughing because I know it's not real, but it tricked my body for a moment of going like, ah, and then I instantly like, oh, I know how they did that, but dude, good job. I'm sure somebody turned it off or walked off at that part of the movie. So like, I enjoy. It's hard to get pulled into them. It's very rare that I do. Every now and then, with the right sound, I'm like, ooh, that crunch, that crunch worked.
Oh yeah, sound design is so important.
Having seen this Hellraiser, the new one, 6 or 7 times probably, still for me the scariest parts is watching people mess with the box and knowing that a little knife is going to stab through their hands. It's not like the more fantastical violence; it's the stuff that you can relate to.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So, and you also played some aliens in Picard, right? I think.
Yeah, I played one. Kind of, because I got cast. Vincent Van Dyke is an amazing special effects makeup artist who's won Emmys and just worked on Oscar-winning stuff. He's amazing. And so that came up, and he was, I think, like the prosthetic designer or something for that. And he had recommended me for a character. And I just got, that was in 2019. And yeah, my manager or my agent, one of them, was like, yeah, you just got a call. Like, they want you to be a recurring character in Star Trek Picard. Like,
oh, nice.
What? And like, yeah, like principal, recurring, credited. Yeah. And I was like, holy crap, amazing. Got all the fittings, got on set the first day with Patrick Stewart, and met him. And like, very restricted site in there. Mm-hmm. And he was like right here next to me, and we're just hanging out. And I kind of look around, and obviously I kind of want to like, look over and be like, oh my gosh, it's Patrick Stewart. So I do. And then when I turn, he's just, can you see in there? And I was like, I can, like right through here. And he's like, wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You look great, and I was like, Patrick Stewart. So cool.
I know.
And I wanted to tell him whenever I got it off later that day, because I went to a Broadway play that he was in. He was in Waiting for Godot with Ian McKellen and Billy Crudup and in New York, and I met him outside of there. And I asked him for advice. I don't remember what he said, but I wanted to shake his hand. And it was like January or something. He's like, oh, now this is not the time of year to be shaking hands, but it's good to meet you. I was like, oh, yeah, I know you're trying not to get sick. Eight shows a week. Yeah, but I wanted to tell him that. Like, dude, you gave me advice, and now here I am.
Yeah,
but
wonderful.
The first day, I never heard back to coming back on set, and I was like, what happened? When are we going back? And then I heard, oh, they went millions of dollars over budget on the first episode. They had to cut a lot of stuff, and they cut 5 characters, and yours is one of them.
Yeah.
I was like,
sad.
But what's weird is I'm credited in the second episode, but I was on the first episode, on set of the first episode, and I never even made it on camera that day.
Oh.
I was like, why am I credited in the set? I still get like $100 every 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I credited in the second episode? I worked on set of the first episode. I was never even on camera. How did that happen? Whatever. So I got to work for a day on Star Trek. I've never been in Star Wars. I've been close several times, but yeah, that was fun. And it's also just a reminder of like, hey, stay in the game. Be friends with people. Stuff is going to come up where you're perfect, and they're going to say, hey, are you available? And it's always absolutely out of nowhere.
Yeah, that kind of answers the question I had. One of the last questions I had for aspiring actors interested in motion capture or creature acting, what advice would you give? So basically just stay in the game, right?
Yes. I mean, I would have multiple things to say. Number one, you're not going to, 99.9%, you're not going to make enough money from acting alone to live off of. How many businesses does The Rock have?
Right.
Plus he acts, and he does make enough from acting. So he does, and he still has other businesses. What's his name? Jimon Hansu, the black actor from Gladiator and so many things. He said in an article the other day, I've been Oscar nominated in all these big movies. I still struggle financially.
Yeah, I saw that.
You got to know that going in. I haven't been in a movie in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know when that's going to happen. Like, someone asked me recently, like, how do you decide which offers to take? I take the offers. Like, I don't get to pick. Like the what you've seen me in, those were the offers.
Right.
Like I'm not at some place where I'm picking, and most people aren't. And so why was that person in that? Because they wanted the money, and maybe it could go somewhere. Like Doug Jones has talked about, he never knew Pan's Labyrinth was going to do what it did.
Yeah, or become Saru in Star Trek. That
was a low budget film. That was a low budget film. Where he went to Spain to film, and he had no idea that it was going to become what it became. And so you got to have other streams of income. Like I have a remote day job for the time being that I do from home and in sales, and my wife has a remote job or hybrid, but pretty remote. We have some other streams of income, some online business stuff, and then so that if acting doesn't come up, we're fine. But then when acting does come up, woohoo!
Yeah.
That's way more. That's more.
And I guess the business changed a lot during COVID, and then with the strike as well. That shook things up a lot. I guess a lot of stuff changed in the meantime. So, yeah, that's the problem, that the industry is always changing, and new technological advances will come in and make things different. So that there's always a changing business.
And I think it's so yeah, on that one note, and then to transition to that, you can make money here. There's place for everyone. If you see any character in any project ever that you could have played, I don't care what body size you are, what you look like, whatever. Yeah, but I have a scar. Well, look at the guy at the beginning of Gladiator who's like his weapons dude or whatever. He's got a big scar down his face. That's natural. He fits that role. Well, I've got this birthmark. Look at that dude in that thing. He's got a birthmark too. Like but the likelihood you're realistically, with the number of projects, the number of roles, that they choose you out of everyone on Earth for that role, and that, great, and you get $1,000 for that day minus taxes and the 10% to your agent. If you have a manager, 10%, you're not going to make enough just from acting. So you'll book stuff, and it'll be freaking awesome. And you might be the 1% of 1%, but all time it's less than 2% of actors who made enough to live off from acting. And it's a different game post 2020. There's less stuff filming than ever. There are smaller cast and crews than ever, because they had to do that and got used to that with COVID. And so they're like, oh, well, then we could do it that way. So let's just keep doing it that way. So that's just the reality of it. I don't think AI is going to take all the jobs. It's a tool. They're going to use it. They're going to use it on actors to help them. Maybe 1% they'll make a whole movie made of AI. It's not going to happen 99. So I don't know any directors who say, man, I love hanging out with Jason, but I'd rather just have AI play that role. That's not going to happen. So know that you can make money, but you have a plan. So what if you don't book anything acting wise this year, next year, the year after? So then you're good. So then when something comes up, great. Hey, job, I'm going to go do this for 3 months and I'll come back because I'm an awesome employee for you guys, or I have my own business or whatever. So do that. And then I forget what you were saying right before that.
Was the advice for actors interested in motion capture or creature acting?
I'll say the same. I agree 1,000% with what Mr. Andy Serkis, is he Sir Andy Serkis yet? He should be.
He should be.
With what Andy says, who also, like Doug Jones, is a sweet, 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 sweet man. Met him a couple of times as well. Those two are my heroes. So for one thing, you can meet your heroes and become friends with them and work with them. And some people say never meet your heroes. Well, maybe you have the wrong hero, because it's like the ones I've met are freaking amazing human beings.
Yeah.
No one's perfect, but amazing. You can focus on, I want to be a motion capture actor. Well, that just means you're going to be an actor who's working majority of the time in video games. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can do that. If you have stunts and martial arts and whatnot, they need that for that. They need great actors for that too. But Andy Serkis says, like, he's not a motion capture actor. He's a great actor. He's one of the best actors alive, period. Yeah. You watch the behind the scenes on anything and you see him, you're like, dude, you don't need visual effects on your face. You're amazing. Yeah. And now he's been a human more and more and more. And Doug Jones is doing the same thing too. He's been able to be a human more and more as well. But Doug Jones' body type and his experience, it's so good for those types of characters in prosthetics and makeup. So he plays a lot of those. Plus he's 6'4" and all that. So, and then Andy Serkis he happened to be in the right place at the right time and play Smeagol. And he's an amazing actor. And so then he got recognized for that. So then they think you need experience. I never did motion capture before Rampage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, the motion capture is what Weta does, all the technical stuff. I'm just acting, and they put it on. Same thing with King Ghidorah. So can it be helpful to take some classes, like with TJ Storm, with Mind's Eye Tribe, or with Richard Dorton with Mocap Vault? TJ Storm plays Godzilla, for people who don't know. Richard Dorton has done so many. They both played a bunch of characters. Yeah, it can help. You can get in a motion capture suit. You can see how it works. You can see kind of what that, but it's all coming down to how good of an actor are you? How good can you embody somebody else without any of that stuff? And if you can do that, well, then when they put it on, you're just doing the same thing. So it's all that motion capture or performance capture is it's an infrared camera capturing the dots and whatnot, capturing your performance that way. Versus a digital camera that's capturing me now. It's just a different form of, but the performance is the exact same. Yeah. They did Planet of the Apes, which is a stage play. Andy Serkis would do nothing different.
Right.
It's the exact same. Yeah. So focus on being a great actor. find where you fit. I fit playing these tall characters other people can't play because I'm 6'9".
Right.
Embrace that. Like, if you're a larger bodied person, like, okay, then you play roles I can't play, right? Like, whatever you are. Yeah. Like, if you have a weird voice or whatever, great. Like, I met Rufus Sewell from Man on High Castle during, first thing I saw him was Bad Guy from A Knight's Tale. I met him during the strikes at Warner Brothers. He was walking around. I was like, dude, what's up? And I asked him for advice. And at first he's like, I don't know. Advice, I don't know. He said, ooh, no. Embrace your weirdness. Yeah. Don't hide it. There's no one like you. Embrace your weirdness. Yeah, but people make fun of me. Great. You'll become famous for what people make fun of you for. Because you're so weird, you're going to play that character differently than anybody else ever could pretend to try. And then there you are, right? Black is Jack Black. Steve Carell is Steve Carell. Johnny Depp is Johnny Depp. Like
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, sure.
But it all comes down to I'm blanking on his name now. But an actor in an interview said you just believe you're the character.
Yeah.
Just believe you're the character. Like, what do you do when you're a kid and you try and convince your parents you're sick and you don't want to go to school that day? You put on a great performance. You're just making sure they actually believe what's going on. You don't have any training for that. So train, but throw it out the window and just believe it's happening. If you believe it's happening, people will believe you.
Yeah.
But then you got to have other income because you're not going to work all the time. If you do, congratulations. What about the next project? When is that? Right. You don't know. You do not know. Yeah. And then just be the best actor you can be. And the last thing I'll say on that too is a mentor of mine years ago said, have a full life plus acting.
So that you can bring your experience into the choices that you make.
And you're not worried about, I need. It's almost like, it's got to be really good to pull me away because I already like doing certain things I do every single day. I got whole routines and all that. I'm into this. I like playing Dungeons and Dragons, and we got a game every Friday. I can't go out of town. We play every Friday. It's like, whatever it is. So it's like, have that full, and then when acting comes up, you just won a 10-week trip somewhere where you get paid and you get to play with people who you've looked up to your whole life. Holy crap. And then all of that experience is going to help you become a more full person and do things that are tough every day so that, you're confident in yourself. And when you get on set, when you're looking at somebody, you can connect. Okay, the last thing I'll say, get around people who have done what you've done. That's what I've been I've always wanted to go to Q&As or Broadway stage doors and ask for advice and just get around people who were the ultimate. Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, whoever, Andy Serkis, Doug Jones, and then them just say, dude, of course you can do it.
Yeah.
So I hope we get to work together one day. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can tell you actually believe it. Not everybody will give you that. Some people will say, Susan Sarandon said for her advice, get good at packing. Yeah, which is actually good because you're going to be, I was like, okay, that's not really what I was looking for. But it actually is good advice. But some people will really give you time and talk to you for 15 minutes because they remember what it was like and they had people help them. And they're like, cool, I get to now help you. Awesome. I'm going to give you what you need, but you got to take it and go do it. And just never quit. Never quit. Like, know that you can get in stuff. Everyone who's been in stuff at one point was like, I don't know if I could actually ever be in a thing. It's not that big a deal. Like, it's really cool, but it's not that big. It's just most people don't try, or they don't take it seriously, or they quit, or they're not accountable. They go to auditions, but they don't actually get better during the day. It's like they show up for a tennis match, but they never practice tennis. Well, then they're gonna suck.
Right. Of
course. If you practice every day because you love it, you just love tennis. Eventually, you'll be the right choice. So, yeah.
Sounds like great advice. Thank you so much.
All of that advice is stolen from interviews and talks from other people too. So listen, study people just like you'd study basketball. Study acting. Study acting and practice it too. You can't just study basketball. You got to go practice. So find ways to practice, even if it's like by yourself in your room talking to yourself. I did that when I was a kid, and my mom would be like, "Who are you talking to? Nobody." I'd be like playing out scenes in my head. I still do it. And my wife is like, who are you talking to? I was like, nobody, leave me alone. Like
And
I
then
have to
sometimes,
do her all day. I put on. She's like, "You're putting on a performance right now." I was like, "I am not putting on a performance. I don't even know how to put on a performance." She's like, "You're literally a paid performer." I was like, "That is so offensive." We joke back and forth all day long. Like,
our parents are our first audience, right?
yeah, yeah. I'm a goofball all the time. I like having fun. So, get around people. Do not listen to people who haven't done it. They're haters. Don't listen to them. Get
Yeah.
around one person who has results that you want and ask them for advice and help. And you just need one person, and that'll lead to another, and that'll lead to another. And then, hey, what are you doing the next 4 months? We need someone to come play this character in this movie 10 weeks over at this place. It's going to take probably years, but you're going to love the journey of it. And it'll be worth it.
And then you'll practice your craft, and people will eventually think of you when they think of a certain creature, and then you're in, you know.
That's insane that happens to me sometimes right now.
Yeah.
It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Like, that's so crazy. But I still want to keep going. I feel like I'm just, okay, now I'm getting started. Now I know what I'm doing. So
Well, I want to see more of the chatter.
In the 70s and 80s, we didn't think of Peter Mayhew, right? But now, I mean, everybody knows he's Chewbacca.
Yeah. We wouldn't accept anybody else playing Chewbacca. Yeah. Or
35 years ago, no one knew who Doug Jones was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And now he's everything. He is the GOAT. He's the Michael Jordan of what he does.
Yeah. I remember seeing him in Nuka-Cola fan-made Fallout series and stuff like that. I was like, hey, this guy's great. And, you know, now we see him in movies like, you know, the Color of Water and stuff like that. So now every time we think of a lanky, tall, you know, creature, we think about Doug Jones, or the Predator is Kevin Peter Hall, or, you know, they just become iconic, you know, performers and identify with that particular kind of craft. Yeah.
It takes years. We don't see all that they went through.
Yeah.
We see they got that one role, wow, out of nowhere. But we don't know how they went through 1,000 things before that didn't work out. But all of those things helped them grow into the person they are. So they were finally prepared. They struck out enough times where they learned, I have an idea about how to hit the ball. And they hit the ball one time. And everyone's like, wow, you're so lucky. It's like, well, they learned how to do it. Yeah. So you have to be willing to suck to then have success. Like, suck is the first part of success. Like, you have to suck. And then no one cares about how many times you sucked. They're like, you got to be in that thing. That's so cool with that person. And then that's it. And then it just turns into more. But you have to keep your foot on the gas and keep getting, like, I still have to, some people think of me now, but it's like, I still feel like I have to, especially if you're getting started, how are they ever going to call you if they don't know you exist? You got to create a list of who needs to know who I am. And you need to call them. And if you can't get in touch with them, try again in a couple months, and then try again in a couple of months. I had a whole list of makeup people and special effects people when I moved out here. I just knew I could have been that thing in that movie, and that person made the makeup. They need to know me. I could have been that thing in that movie. They need to know me. And how do you get in touch with them? Dude, there's so much Google information and social media and people, you know, you can comment and they heart your comment back and you build a little bit of it. They start to know who you are. Like, there's so many. Oh, look, there's their phone number or their email on IMDb Pro. There's so many ways to get in touch with anybody. Oh, look, they're going to be speaking at that convention. I bet I can go introduce myself and ask how we can keep in touch, and it'd be a dream to work with them. And maybe they'll say, hey, you know what? Good for you for flying out here and telling me that. Here, shoot me an email here. You know, I'll see what I can do. That's happened to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like with big people, most people don't do that. But if you don't do it, nothing's going to happen. And you only need one person to say, I like your ambition. Good for you for coming out here and telling me that and taking the guts to do that. You know what? Give me your email. I'll shoot you a message. Can't promise anything, but I'll see what I can do. And some of them follow up. And you're like, I got an email from him. Oh my God. Like, and you don't care how many people told you no when that happens.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing you in more roles in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing the return of Chatter, possibly, you know. Well, we want to thank you for spending all this time with us today and giving us such a great insight into what it's been like to be Jason Liles.
Well, to be Jason Liles is just to be a stupid nerd all day. And
Well, look at us. We're all nerds.
we work
Yeah, I
hard.
know.
We work hard and to take things seriously, but to kind of never take things seriously in a way. And yeah, there are what I can say about what's going on right now is nothing other than that there are talks of things that would be they are the biggest projects I would have ever been a part of, the biggest roles I would have ever had. So it's nothing is concrete, but I'm very excited. I believe and speak that they're going to happen. And some of them have come from those random, I'm going to go fly to where that person is speaking. I'm going to introduce myself and holy crap, it worked. And now we're talking and maybe it's actually going to happen. No freaking way. I'm going to die. And so it just takes that. So I'm hoping they would happen this year. I don't know if I'd be able to say I'm in them this year. But there's several things that would come out next year that we're talking about. That would be some of the biggest projects ever that I've ever been part of, which is saying a lot. I've been blessed to be in some big projects, and some of the biggest roles I've ever had ever. And so it's like, and that's after 4 years of a lot. I've had like a commercial here and there, but 4 years since Hellraiser, and before Hellraiser, it was 3 years since Godzilla and 4 years since Rampage. So it's like, and there were other things in there, but like the big, lots of money, holy crap, who am I working with? There are gaps, but if you stay in the game, out of nowhere you wake up to an email and you're like, what? Oh my God. I can't think about anything else. So
now our interest is peaked. You'll have to let us know when you can say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let us know and we'll be able to put that out on our blog as well. If that materializes, we'd love to promote your work.
If I do get to be a part of them and I get to talk about them, they're already being talked about. They're big. But then either my involvement will be able to be talked about or it won't till it comes out. Or it will. And then it'll be, they're big. Like if they said you can be in it, but you have to retire afterwards. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I can't imagine anything bigger. Yes. Thank you. Okay, sure. Where do I sign? So yeah, we'll see. Stay in the game. And your dreams are freaking, it's really weird. What is controlling things? Like, who heard my wish? Things come true. It's really freaking weird. 20 years later, sometimes things come together and you're like, what? My teenage self would have a heart attack. Are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
Right.
You gotta go after it.
Yes.
And it happens. For people who are listening, you gotta go after it. That could never happen. Yes, it could. Yeah, but like they never make something like that with those people. They might. You don't know. So go after it.
Keep at it.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason.
And, so good getting the time with you both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know anything I can do to help in the future. It felt like it took 2 minutes and 2 hours is gone.
Coming next, our next episode, actually, we've been kind of putting together. We're looking at a news episode, and we also are going to have a discussion about the Candyman True Crime podcast. It's called Candyman, the True Story of the Bathroom Mirror Murders or Murder? I forget.
Murder, I think. Yeah.
Murder,
I started listening to that podcast. So it's very interesting. Yeah, to know how they brought that in. They focused more on that part of what's the name of the director from Candyman? Jesus Christ.
Bernard Rose.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Bernard Rose. But he brought that real life crime into the Candyman mythology, right? Into the movie about that lady.
In a way, yes. Yeah. And we'll definitely get to that because
this podcast,
the whole episode 4 is all Bernard Rose.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to the first episode and it took them a while to mention that Candyman was based on The Forbidden by Clive Barker. So I was like, when are they going to say it? It's like, and then they finally said it. But they focus mostly on that true crime episode. So
right.
that you get to learn a lot about what happened and how that happened and why it happened. And there's some dramatization of calls to the police and stuff. It's pretty cool. If you like true crime, it's a good stuff.
And it's a limited series. It's just 6 episodes that are like between 30 minutes and an hour each. So it doesn't take too long to get through it. I recommend everybody listen to that before next weekend when we talk about it. So you can kind of weigh in on your opinions too. We'd like to hear what you think of it. I've got a bunch of thoughts on it, and I'm anxious to get that out. The Quartet of Torment, we're going to get back to the last disc on that, the disc 4 of the Quartet of Torment.
That's right there.
Yeah. The Book Club of Blood. We're going to be talking about In the Hills, the Cities, and it's the last story in Books of Blood Volume 1. And we'll get back to Jericho Squad. We need to set a date for that. I want to get back to it.
Yeah. Jericho Squad RPG game where we travel through the dominions of the Imagica.
Yeah. Our we're getting close to end game for that. So it'd be good to. I've been working so much that I haven't taken time to do some of the prep work with Rob and stuff.
I understand. I've been working hard on finding work.
Oh yeah, that becomes a job.
That becomes a job as well. Yes, but we got a lot of stuff coming up. So I hope you guys enjoy the chat with Jason Liles today, and super informative. Check out that Ed Martinez channel and watch that Rampage.
Oh yeah.
George, Lizzie, and Ralph.
If somebody thought, it's just a video game movie, and you passed it up, I mean, I can understand that attitude, but you should check it out, because if you like kaiju movies, it's really fun.
I know. And Death Note, like I said, I'm a fan of. I don't think we mentioned that in this episode, but we were talking earlier before we started recording that I saw the first few. There's a couple of live action films. I think they're from 2005, 2006. And those are also pretty good. And they're really good adaptations of the manga. So check that out too. Yeah. But of course, it's on Netflix, Death Note from 2017 with Ryuk played by Jason Liles. And like we usually say, this podcast having no beginning will have no end.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog, and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.